All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. It is Thursday, March 20th. We have just 5 games on today's NBA slate. Like we always do, I'm going to dive into each and every one of these games. I'll give you my prediction on the side. I'll give you my prediction on the total. Talk about any other plays like player props that we like within the game as well. But as always, guys, keep an eye down on the pinned comment of this video. That'll take you to all of my final plays, so I'm actually rolling with myself. If that does interest you, absolutely free down in the pinned comment. All right, YouTube, how you doing? Welcome back to the channel. I tell you guys I'm a dummy all the time. They don't suck. They've just been sucking. Get them down to -3 for more juice than Jose Canseco in his prime. Tell me you're new without telling me you're new. So don't go jumping down my throat in the comments, right? If you want to fade me, or if you do want to ride me, this still leaves a bad taste in my mouth, right? And remember, more chins, more wins. In terms of last night, a slight profitable night there. We have the Rockets team total over Dalton Knecht, which cashed early, and then Kevin Durant over 36.5 PRA, all cashing. The parlays that we threw in, so the money line parlay with the Pistons and Knicks, and then the slimy parlay of the Pacers -1.5 and Timberwolves -1.5. We hit one play in each of those two leg parlays. And I kid you not, I almost reversed those for the Pistons and the Pacers, which would have cashed, and then Knicks and Timberwolves, which obviously both lost. So we were right there, but I can't make excuses here. It's just kind of an explanation. But nonetheless, still a 3-2 night. We'll take the little bit of profit. Unfortunately, our ride of the day. Got to drop the womp womp on Uncle Jay here. It was a good game, that Pistons and Heat game, but they end up winning the game by 3. Cade Cunningham at the buzzer hits a pull-up bank shot off of an inbound pass. Really good game, like I said, but the ride of the day was them minus the points, -4.5. I didn't think the Pistons were losing that game, and we were very, very close to pulling the trigger on them minus the points, but we ended up throwing them in the money line parlay. But nonetheless, the ride of the day does not come through. If you guys don't know what the ride of the day is, it's simple. Just use that hashtag ride of the day or ROTD down in the comments. I jump on board with one person's play each and every day. Give you a shout out in the next video, win or loss. If you win, we continue to ride with your plays. If you lose, like Uncle Jay did today, we do have to go ahead and drop the womp womp. You still get the shout out though. And again, this was obviously a good look. They won by 3 points. And they battled back. Like Miami was winning for a lot of that game. So still a good look. You knew the Pistons were going to try and come through and keep their playoff spot in lock there. But ultimately had to face the womp womp today. We also shout you out though over on my Twitter/X. It'll be popping up here throughout the show as well. And on the Guy Boston Sports site with the final plays. So get those hashtag ride of the days down in the comments below. And what do you say? Let's go ahead and jump into today's slate. Hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Let's start it off here. We got Indiana taking on Brooklyn. So Indiana laying 8.5 points here. They are on a back-to-back. Like I said, we had them in our slimy parlay yesterday. They ended up winning, but not covering against their opponent, the Dallas Mavericks. They were, 10.5 point favorites, but ultimately, Tyrese Halliburton ends up getting ruled out. So there's some explaining, I guess that we use there and an excuse as to why they didn't cover the number. They have won 4 of their last 5 games. They haven't really been covering, though. In their last 10 games, they've only covered in 3 of them. And you're looking at a Brooklyn team that is covering. 5 of their last 6 they've covered. 6 of their last 8 they've covered. Like, they are playing teams tough, and they're getting big numbers. That's a big part. I always see the comments of, well, obviously they're covering. They're getting huge numbers. It's a chicken before the egg thing, right? It's like, well, they're getting a big number because they're a bad team. Sure, they could be covering the number because they're getting a big number, but it depends on, I guess, what you deem happens first, right? Which it's, again, chicken before the egg type thing. I would consider this a fairly big number against an Indiana team on a back-to-back. Back-to-back so far this season, Indiana's only covered in 20% of their games. Now, Tyrese Halliburton might get ruled in and play here, so we'll keep an eye on that injury. And Cam Johnson, I believe, is out for Brooklyn, so two massive swings in either direction, right? Pacers could get Halliburton back. That means something. Brooklyn does not have Cam Johnson. That seriously means something. But I do think that 8.5 seems like it's a little bit too much. So because of the way Brooklyn's playing and playing a little pesky, I'm going to lean in that direction. To be honest, it's like a 50% lean, right? Like, I don't know if we get there because, again, Cam Johnson is a really good and really big part of that team, and he's not playing today. But what I will say is, in the games that we've seen so far this season, we saw, I believe, one game where Brooklyn won. It was in Brooklyn. Then they played in Brooklyn again. Indiana spanked them. So if you're on Indiana, there are angles to get there. To me, this is the spot for, maybe a close-ish game with Indiana back-to-back, though. In terms of a total, I don't mind an over. I mean, I don't see Indiana's defense as being something that is that, impressive, right? In back-to-backs, they'll probably be a little bit more tired as well. And Brooklyn, their defense has looked good at times, looked bad at times. But to me, without Cam Johnson, they should try to run. I mean, they have D'Angelo Russell, Keon Johnson, Zaire Williams, Watford, Claxton. Like, if they play half-court basketball against this Pacers team, they're toast. So I know the Brooklyn Nets play slow and have been playing slow, but if there's any way for them to keep this game close and get moving, I would assume they're going to want to run. We kind of saw that against the last, I guess 2 of the last 3 games. One of those games against Boston, and then one of those games against Atlanta. So again, I'm not married to the over here, but that is the direction I'd lean in. One player prop that I don't mind would be taking a peek at Nick Claxton here. With no Cam Johnson, so that's obviously a guy that could, take some rebounds from him. That could give a little bit of an elevation here, obviously. But what I like is he's had some decent rebound chance numbers against this Pacers team. Now, he has not hit his over in rebounds yet. Right now, it's 8.5, but still should have, like I said, a decent opportunity. He's had, in his 2 games this year, 16 rebound chances and 15 rebound chances. The 3 games before that, so last season, he had 13 rebounds, 11 rebounds, and 10 rebounds. So he definitely has had the quantity and opportunity, just hasn't grabbed, 50% of his rebound chances like we'd assume, or a little bit over 50. So that's a potential look there as well. You can get that for even odds right now, so not minding him over 8.5 rebounds. But keep an eye on the pin comment, guys. There are definitely other spots on this slate that I'm liking more than probably anything that I just mentioned. Unfortunately, it's just the first game. That's how we're starting things. And it is a 5-game slate, so we're not going to force anything today. So keep an eye on the pinned comment taking you to the final plays. All right, Charlotte taking on New York. If you guys aren't aware, we have Charlotte, and they are on the DNB graveyard here. They're the only team in there. They have burned us so many times. And honestly, to no one's fault but my own. Like, who is actually taking Charlotte this many times to have them on a DMB list? Like, the fact that I need to put them on there to make sure that I don't touch them is crazy, but you know what? I'm crazy. In terms of what we see here, we do see, obviously, New York on the back-to-back. They end up losing to San Antonio. They were 8-point favorites. They lost by 15 yesterday. Now, no Brunson obviously matters. Bridges didn't have that great of a game. So there are sort of, some easy explanations as to why they lost. Charlotte coming off of a loss to Atlanta in which they lost by 32 points. This team, I can't imagine sticks with a Knicks team if guys play. Now, right now, same injury report as yesterday, right? Brunson out, and we have McBride, Bridges, Hart, Anunoby, and Towns as a starting lineup. On the flip side, on the Charlotte side of things, we have LaMelo Ball and Miles Bridges listed as probable, but still on the injury report. So if those guys don't play and the Knicks roll out the guys they rolled out last night, I expect them to bounce back in a spot like this. I will say the Knicks, 2 things. Covering on the road and covering on back-to-backs have been a difficult spot for them this year. But as the season winds down and whatnot, I would have to imagine that at some point this Knicks team is saying, hey, let's make sure that, we win some games heading into the playoffs. I would say them being, I think they're like 4.5 games up on the Pacers for the 3 seed. I would say that they're probably chilling in terms of their playoff spot, but they don't want to head into the playoffs on somewhat of like a losing streak, right? And they just have not been playing consistent basketball. They'll look good against a team like Miami, and then literally the very next game gets spanked by an injury-ridden team in San Antonio. The one sort of thing that I could see the Knicks, I guess, struggling with in this one is the fact that Charlotte, say what you want about their defense, say what you want about their team, some way, somehow, they've actually played decent interior defense this entire season. And as of late, last 10 games at the rim, they're allowing their opponents nearly 59. I think it's like 59.8% field goal percentage to their opponents at the rim. The Knicks obviously like to score in the paint. They do a little bit more of the mid-range and sort of in the paint that is before the rim, so I give a little bit of credence to New York there. But overall, that could be the way that Charlotte keeps this close. But if you've been watching this Charlotte team, like, against a good Knicks team, this should be a spot where the Knicks say, okay, you know what? We've lost 2 of our last 3 games against one team that we definitely probably should have beaten. The Warriors, I think they ended up covering that game because they were dogs in that one. The Warriors, they only lost by like 3, right? But why don't we get back on the win train here, right? Now, in terms of what they have coming up, they do have a bunch of home games coming up. So do they want to close off this on a high note? Maybe. Are they looking forward to just getting back home? Maybe. I think you're just psycho if you're liking Charlotte. So by default, I'll lean towards the Knicks, but I could actually get there today, certainly in one of those slimy money line or just slimy, alternate line parlays. In terms of what we have from a total, I don't mind a Knicks team total over. Let me get an updated line right now so we know exactly what we're talking about here. But overall, again, I do think that, yes, this Knicks team may have some issues at scoring directly at the rim. That is where Charlotte seems to be fairly strong as of late. But they should be able to score in the mid-range, right past the foul line and in the paint there, right? And over 112.5 could be something that I get behind here. Head-to-head wise, the Knicks in their last 6 games against Charlotte have averaged 117.17, and they've cashed the over in 5 of their last 6. On Charlotte's home floor, they've averaged 111, so a little bit less. That's worth noting, but that is including a 99-point game that was earlier this season. So obviously, you throw that one out, they're doing pretty damn well. But you can't necessarily just throw out data points, right? But that was a very, very low scoring game. In terms of what we have from a player prop spot here, I don't mind, even either a Deuce McBride or even a Mikal Bridges look again, but I will say those back-to-backs worry me with some of these Knicks players because obviously you have the theory that Tibbs runs his guys into the ground. Now on back-to-back, it's even harder and that type of thing. So a little worrisome there. But yeah, overall, I would say that this is probably a guard spot for anyone playing against Charlotte. Again, I think that Charlotte has some sneaky good defense right at the rim, so I'm not targeting Towns. I'm not targeting Hart or Anunoby. That leaves the 2 other starters for any sort of overs would be, Deuce McBride and Bridges. So potential looks there. I don't really love their lines, but if you can get them in some sort of same game parlay where you're making those lines a little bit, lighter, that could be something that I consider. Speaking of making a line a little bit lighter and easier to hit, how about sleeper picks? What a transition, Ev. Throwing out a 0.5 points line for Steph Curry in which should be a pretty good game, I guess, for Steph Curry in terms of matchup and whatnot. The spread is huge, but Steph Curry, 0.5 points. Don't have to worry about a blowout there because all he needs is 1 basket, 1 point, in fact, to cash the over here over on Sleeper. If you guys don't know what Sleeper is, it's the player prop app in which you combine 2 or more projections into a slip. The more you win, the more you get paid out, and you can add this one in on top of whatever you're already doing to increase that payout. But I keep saying the best thing that they're offering is this Play 5, Get $55 deal. New customers place an entry for $5. You will then get 11 free $5 entries that you can go big on. Maybe you can just do a couple easy ones to build the bankroll in there. Really, really cool what they're doing over there, guys. And they do a ton of discounts, ton of promos. Go check out Sleeper Picks. That link will be down in the description as well as the pinned comment. If you just want to download it on your phone and sign up using code GUYBOSTON, you'll get all the same goodies. Go ahead and check it out. I've been using Sleeper for years now. One of my favorite apps to do these player prop sort of entries on, because one thing about Sleeper is they have alternate lines, they have multipliers, and which is really cool because they don't just, once a play gets too valuable and whatnot, they don't just remove it from the app. They will change the multiplier so it can stay on the app. You can still throw it in. Alternate lines, more plays, and the fact that you can go out there and get a dynamically changing payout from them is very, very cool. They don't just follow a fixed payout structure. So a lot of unique things that Sleeper does, guys. Go ahead and check it out. That link will be down below in the description as well as the pinned comment. Let's jump back into the last 3 games here on the slate. Next up, Sacramento taking on Chicago. I want to dive into a couple player props here before we do dive into the game itself. So we'll start it off with one that I think has just a little bit of a narrative, but also, could have some true substance to it here, would be DeMar DeRozan. I like his points. I like his points, rebounds, and assists. He's playing his old team. I think that maybe goes for something. It's not exactly like the most fresh thing, I guess. But you do have Zach LaVine listed as out now. Just keep an eye on the injury report because this is obviously a Sacramento team here that is on a back-to-back. They actually beat Cleveland last night outright. They were at home, but they're on a back-to-back, so their injury report can come out a little bit later. But if Zach LaVine doesn't play, I think that this could be a go spot. I also don't mind Zach LaVine if he does play, just because of the fact that it's his old team too. So I think those narratives kind of work in there. But LaVine didn't play yesterday. If he doesn't play again, I don't mind DeMar DeRozan. I think DeMar without LaVine should have a pretty good opportunity scoring here in this spot. This year, or last 10 games, I should say, without Zach LaVine, he's averaged a great number. He's hit in 6 of his last 10 here. And if we want to look at, in fact, I can dive into my dashboard here, which I'll explain how you guys can get access to this in just a second. But let's dive into this one and take a peek at why I immediately gravitate towards DeMar DeRozan. And it's the same thing as to why I like the Chicago Bulls player prop that we'll get to in a second. But right here, look at this shooting zone. Sacramento, obviously a team that shoots a lot of mid-range. In fact, last 10 games, number 1 in the entire league. That's frequency. But if we look at the defense here of Chicago, they're allowing 52% to their opponents shooting in the mid-range. Where does DeMar DeRozan like to score from? The mid-range, right? So I love to see that. They're also not all that great against any sort of pull-up defense, or I should say against pull-up offense, so that looks good as well. So if you can get DeMar DeRozan at 22.5, I really don't mind that whatsoever. 23.5 I've seen out there, getting a little bit higher, but again, he is playing decent basketball. We can't take that away from him. He's averaging, almost 23 points per game over his last 10. On the season, I think he's averaging right around that as well. Obviously, that's why his line is where it is. But pick and roll ball handler, in the post, like all these things he should be pretty damn suited for. And, depending on what position he technically gets the go at here, he's listed as the small forward, but he has been playing up a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if he plays up in this game against someone like Matas Buzelis. But either way, small forward or power forward, the Bulls struggle to cover. So DeMar DeRozan, first look in this one. It does kind of come down to whether or not LaVine is playing. The next one that I like is a little bit more interesting, but it's going to be a guy that I think is in a perfect spot. He shoots pretty much the majority of his shots in the spot up from 3, and diving back into the dashboard, look at that. Sacramento kind of struggling against that above the break, which is where this dude's points are going to come from. The one thing I will say, Sacramento's been a little bit better, overall in terms of, the catch and shoot, which we have built into the dashboard here. But obviously from 3, they've struggled all year long. You can see in the bottom left of the dash here. So that player's name is going to be Kevin Huerter, who I guess, to be 2 or 3 years ago now, we were talking about him being like one of the best guys on the channel. We were cashing with him left and right, and we really haven't touched him that much, in a while. But I think this could be a decent spot for Kevin Huerter, especially if Lonzo Ball is still going to be out. Josh Giddey, keep an eye on that. They're also on a back-to-back, so injuries are going to be really, really important in both of these player props. So kind of keep up to date on that today. But yeah, I mean, if we don't have Lonzo Ball yet again, I think this is a good spot. His last 5 games here without Lonzo Ball, Kevin Huerter, 13, 18, 9, 17, and 15. So seems like a decent spot. I'd probably still consider even his threes, but I just like his points. I think this could be a good spot for Kevin Huerter. His line right now is 11.5. I think I've seen some 10.5s out there as well. Those might be juice to the moon. I saw that a little bit earlier, but yeah, if you can get him at 11.5, I don't mind it. What if he hits 4 threes? Boom. All right. So 2 player props start there. Let's get into the actual game itself. So I already kind of talked about where both of these teams have their opportunity, right? Chicago played that Suns team pretty tight yesterday. Both teams stink on back-to-backs, I will say that. This is a big number for the Kings to cover, and I think there is a letdown spot coming here after beating the Cavs outright. I don't think that the Chicago wins. I think the Kings can still win this game, but maybe by 4 or 5 points. So I will say I'm going to lean Chicago as well as an over. I think neither one of these defenses, like I said, is suited. And just for what it's worth, on back-to-backs, which both teams are in, 60% of Chicago's back-to-back games have gone over. 62% of Sacramento's games have gone over in back-to-backs this year. So obviously decent spot there. And, Sacramento, though they're a slower-paced team, they can play with a fast pace for sure. And we know Chicago can run. But I think this could just be a trade-off game, right? Which 7 points, 7.5 points can definitely kind of come into play towards the end of that one. So, yeah, if this thing starts to move down and down and down, I definitely would disregard Chicago. If this gets down to 6, that's a whole point, or 5.5, then, yeah, probably not loving it. I think Sacramento still wins this game, but I just don't know if it's by a margin of 8 points, if that makes sense. All right, Golden State taking on Toronto. Already kind of mentioned, I think the good opportunity is the people on the perimeter here against this Toronto squad. Don't have any player props in this one, just FYI, just because of the blowout potential, obviously. But again, sleeper picks, 0.5 points for Steph Curry. If you're a new user, go ahead and check it out. But this is probably one where if we were to roll with something here, it may be Knicks minus 2.5. Golden State -2.5 in one of those slimy parlays, because it's tough to make a case for Toronto in this spot. Jakob Poeltl may not play. Walter may not play. We have RJ Barrett already ruled out. Ingram still out, obviously. Grady Dick still out. So too many injuries on the Toronto side of things to really even consider. And I think this is a Golden State team that's just playing good basketball, right? Like, they lost to Denver. That was a one loss in their last 9 games. Are they covering? Not necessarily. Are they covering big numbers? No. But again, if we move this thing down to like 2.5, it's a whole different ballgame, right? We're not worried about 14.5. So yeah, I think they should be able to rein it in from the perimeter. They should dominate down low as well if Jakob Poeltl doesn't play, because all of a sudden now a lot of the size that Toronto probably had an advantage heading into this game. And I've been a big proponent of Golden State. The one weakness is if you can just outsize them. Like Jimmy Butler and Draymond Green down low. I don't care if post plays or like, he's a big guy, but not the most physical guy, right? You can't outsize Golden State for certain. But Jakob Poeltl not being in there, like, I don't think that they necessarily have that to begin with, if that makes sense, like especially for 48 minutes of the game. So yeah, Golden State's my look here, but again, it would probably be in some sort of parlay. 14 points is a lot, and just for what it's worth, the Warriors, though they've been playing really good basketball, they have not been the best of cover teams, especially with a big number like this hanging. So yeah, take that for what it's worth. In terms of what we have from a total here, I think the Warriors could have a good scoring night. So I would probably, this is one of those 2 ships passing in the night. I didn't even realize that was becoming a saying on the channel until we got so many comments. But what I mean by that is that 225.5, like, if it was 2 Warriors teams playing, I'd like the over. But if it was 2 Raptors teams with the same matchups, it's kind of inception stuff, then I would like the under, right? So instead of looking at that 225.5, it's probably where I split it and say Warriors team total over, Raptors team total under, and then it's tough because now you have to decide on which of those 2 to roll with, but that's kind of how I think of it. 2 ships passing in the night. Warriors in a way different situation here than Toronto. In fact, why don't I just get those updated lines? Even if we don't roll with it, it might help you guys just to know the line. So you can go Raptors team total under 107.5. I really don't mind that. And then on the other side of things here, if we wanted to look at Golden State, team total for their over would be over 118.5 at the bare minimum, paying a little bit of juice. So I like both that. Over 118.5 for Golden State. What do we say? Under 107.5? So for something like that for Toronto. So yeah. And again, no major player props. Can I talk? No major player props in this game. Go ahead and comment player props if you made it this far into the video. Yeah, that's going to be interesting, because now we're going to get a lot of people reading comments being like, why is everyone commenting player props? Because I just said comment player props, and the OGs and the real ones made it to this point in the video, and they didn't just skip around. Really do appreciate it. Also, quick rant, okay? You guys are awesome. Like, this is, I'm not going to get all sappy here, but I've been pretty, like, sick. I rarely get sick, but been pretty sick. Not like Tassos. That dude's sick every 2 seconds. But you know what? He makes good videos. But, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm really sick. And I tell you guys on the video, and then all of a sudden I get this influx of DMs. I mean, all the comments, DMs, people reaching out on Discord, on Twitter, and it's like Instagram being like, hope you're feeling better, like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, damn, like that's real. Like, people taking their time out of their day to give me some well wishes really does, as I get choked up here, really does mean a lot. So yeah, I tell you guys all the time, I don't take any of this shit for granted. Whether it's the channel growth, the support from you guys, people backing me when we're going at it with the guppies, but even just on like real life stuff, right? Like when I'm feeling ill and you guys are like, hey, feel better. Like hundreds of messages of those kind of get you feeling better, as weird as it is. So thank you guys. You might have helped me get to the other side of this, because again, not to say that, you know, that's real or tangible, but I could be honest, right? You get a bunch of messages being like, hey, feel better, man. You read that enough, your brain starts thinking, yeah, let's feel better. So thank you guys, and I do truly appreciate it. Let's get to the last game of the slate here before we get too sappy. I know some people like the rants, and then the guppies are like, can you just get to the picks? We'll get to the picks, yeah, guppies. Lakers taking on Milwaukee here, spread at 3.5. In favor of Milwaukee, which does make a little bit of sense, right? Lakers on a back-to-back here. We did see this matchup, what was it? Maybe a week ago, maybe a little bit more. Either way, about a week ago, right? And it was in Milwaukee, but Milwaukee took it to this Lakers squad. They won by 20 points. Luka had like 40-something in that. I think he had a triple-double, if I'm not... no, wait, Luka did he not have... I know he had a bunch of rebounds. He might not have had a good assist night because he went off points-wise. But we also saw, you know, Brook Lopez, Dame, and I want to say Giannis all get above like 25, something like that. I could have some of these numbers wrong, but really good game from the Bucks. If this were not a back-to-back for the Lakers, I honestly think that there could be something where I'm thinking, all right, maybe there's something going on with this Lakers team, but I do worry about them a little bit overall. Like, I think that this Bucks team is almost like the antithesis of what the Lakers are defensively in terms of how the Bucks can score. They can score from the outside. Once you start doing that, it opens up what the Lakers do, and I do believe that they still do struggle down low, even though the numbers would say otherwise. But like come 7-game series or something, I think that gets exposed. So I'm going to lean Milwaukee here, but man, I think that I'm afraid of this Lakers team enough to stay away from it, if I'm being honest. Like, this Lakers team, if they go out there and dominate the perimeter, much like I told you they would do against Denver, and look what they did to Denver, right? Like, they were what? They ended up being decently favored against Denver because of injuries, but either way, like, we look at that game and it's like the Lakers ended up shooting over 40% from three. They shot the ball nearly 40 times. Like, they dominated the perimeter like I kind of thought they would, and if they end up doing that against Milwaukee, it's tough to compete with this Lakers team because you do have Luka, you have Reeves, you throw in, like I said with Kennett yesterday, it's like he got hot. He hit his first 3 threes. We only needed 2 from him. He hit 3. So if that happens, and that does scare me a little bit, it's tough to compete with them. Like, they're going to be a threat when their shots are falling, and I can't be a person that's thinking, oh man, like this is bad basketball. You can't just shoot threes. It's like I'm a Celtics fan. You don't think the Celtics live and die by the damn 3 ball? So Lakers kind of in the same boat to me as of right now, but they're playing good defense. And Milwaukee also, I think, has an underrated defense. And if Milwaukee does want to get into the paint, which they haven't really been doing much lately, but when they did play this Lakers team, a week or so ago, kind of what they did, right? They said, okay, well, you know what? We're going to shoot well from 3, but they shot like over 50% from the field down low and stuff too. So I think it's going to be a repeat. I'm going to lean Milwaukee, but this Lakers team is scary enough, especially if everyone plays in the back-to-back, that it could keep me off of it. I think that them being able to fill it up from the outside is a little worrisome, but at the same time, Milwaukee has the guys that can do that as well, right? So I guess all in all, I'm saying I like Milwaukee, but if you're on the Lakers, I'm really not trying to talk you off it. This should be a pretty good game. Total at 225. I have this one pegged more so right around the 227-ish number, and I'm going to stick to that. I think that this could be a game that gets to that 226 overall. Like, I think Milwaukee's offense does pretty similar to how they did last time. Maybe not 126, but near 120, which is a good start, right? And again, I think the Lakers, I don't think they get smoked here, but even if that's the case, say Milwaukee goes out there and scores 115, we only need 110 from the Lakers. And if you look at their recent games, it's like they should be able to give you 110, right? Excluding that Milwaukee game, in their last 5, they've hit it in every other game except for that really, really low-scoring game in which they still won against the Suns, and they had scored 107. They were 1 basket away from the 110 number. So I think this one can get up to 226. I'm gonna lean there. Player props. I mean, not to beat a dead horse or get too greedy here, but we could look at, Dalton Kennett again. I think that this is another spot now, because they're in a back-to-back, we're going to wait lines out, but if we can get near even odds for him to hit 2 threes again, why not? It's like house money at this point. And overall, I do think that this Milwaukee team, though some of the numbers would say that their interior defense isn't all that, stupendous, season-long numbers would say that, yeah, you're better off trying to shoot the 3 on this Milwaukee team. And the Lakers should have no problem doing that. Throw in the fact that this is a Milwaukee team that actually struggles more defending the corner threes, which is where Kennett may shoot some threes as well. He's not just like a pull-up from above the break type guy. I think that he could have another decent spot here. So again, we don't have any true lines for him just yet. I think we only have like Luka and Reeves lines out. But if we can get some Kennett lines out, we might turn into a Kennett fan over here. I know people used to get mad because I called him Knight, but I just think that's a cooler name. And you can make the argument that it should be pronounced Dalton Knight. It's like Knight as in good night, doing the Steph Curry. But yeah, that's probably where I'd go here. If we wanted something on the Lakers side of things, I have a hard time looking past Giannis, to be honest. His line is very, very high. Last time he played this team, he only had 24 points, but he only shot the ball 13 times. Like, I think in a bigger game like this, was it 13 times? I feel like it might have been like 15, something like that. But in a bigger game like this, I think we could see some more field goal attempts from Giannis. And when he does shoot the ball, in fact, we just had this up, when he does shoot the ball, say 20 or more times, he's had over 28.5 points in 24 of 30 games, of his last 30 games doing that. If we want to look at it from the entire season here, let's see, we got 34 times this year he shot the ball over 20 times, or 20 or more, I should say, and 82.4% of those games, he's hit the over. And so I do think that in a game like this, maybe he probably kind of has a little, oomph to him, right? And if we look back to last year, both of the games he played against the Lakers, now not this past time, like I said, he shot it only like 13 to 15 times. I forget what it was. Both times he shot the ball over 23 times. So I could see him doing that, kind of doing what he did last year in this game. So Giannis wouldn't be a bad look in my mind either. We kind of rambled on that one, but guys, that is going to wrap it up for today's show. Let the haters say 30 minutes for 5 games. What are you doing? My bad, this mouth can talk, and we're just getting off of a sickness. Finally feeling like my voice is back. It is what it is. But appreciate you guys for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys in the next one, all right? Peace out.